This property reverts to blood family now. Pack your bags and get out. That's what my father-in-law said, less than 24 hours after I buried my husband. I was still in my black funeral dress when he said it. Standing in my own doorway, watching him and his sons carry out the antique chair my grandmother left me, like looters taking trophies from a battlefield. Raymond. I said, my voice shaking but quiet. You have no right to be here. He turned, that smug half-smile twisting on his face. No right, this is family property, girl. Always has been, always will be. Marcus is gone now, and you're not blood. Simple as that. My name is Hey, I'm 37 years old, and until that morning I thought I understood what love, family, and loyalty really meant. I thought that after 8 years of marriage to Marcus I belonged, but I was wrong. That morning, I realized I'd married into a family that had never accepted me, not truly, and as I watched them dump my wedding photos on the porch like trash, something inside me broke. But here's the thing they didn't know. Marcus saw them long before I did, and he had left behind something that would turn their cruelty back on them. Every last one of them. When I first met Marcus, he was this gentle, kind-hearted veterinarian from Richmond, Virginia. He cared for wounded animals like they were his own children. I was a nurse then, working double shifts and saving every penny. We met when one of his rescue dogs bit me during a volunteer event. He stitched me up himself, nervously apologizing the whole time. We fell in love the way quiet people do, in small, steady moments. Coffee before work, dinners on the porch, long drives on Sundays. But from the first moment I met his parents, something felt off. When Marcus introduced me to them, his mother Patricia looked me up and down like she was examining a stain on fine china. She's very practical, she'd said, with that kind of smile people use when they mean the opposite. His father, Raymond, asked me about my background, meaning, of course, how much money my family had. When he found out I'd put myself through nursing school, he nodded slowly. Ambitious. Well, Marcus comes from a long line of property owners. I hope you understand what that means. I smiled politely, but inside, I wanted to scream. That night, as Marcus drove me home, I told him, your parents don't like me. He laughed softly and squeezed my hand. They'll come around, Ash. They just need time. 8 years later, they still hadn't. Every holiday was the same, polite smiles, cold shoulders. Conversations would stop the moment I walked into a room. Patricia always found a way to seat me at the far end of the dinner table, like I was a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. Once I overheard her telling Marcus through the thin kitchen wall, son, she's nice enough, I suppose, but she's not our kind of people. And Marcus, bless him, said quietly, Mother, she's exactly my kind of people. Still, I saw something change in his eyes that day. A flicker of realization. 3 months before he died, we went to his cousin's wedding. The same old family gathering. The same polite hostility. I excused myself to use the restroom, and when I came back I heard them. Raymond, his sons, even Patricia. When Marcus goes, one of them said, the property comes back to the family. Right? Of course, Raymond answered. Always has. Always will. Wives get temporary rights, but family property reverts to blood. And Patricia, she laughed softly and said, the only challenge will be getting her to leave peacefully. You know how these types get when money's involved. They were planning my widowhood like it was a business meeting. I stood frozen, heart pounding, listening to them discuss what would happen after Marcus dies, as if that were inevitable, as if I were nothing but an obstacle to be removed. That night in the car, I told Marcus everything. He was quiet for a long time, then he said, Ashley, there's something I need to show you. We sat in our kitchen, the air thick with silence. He brought out a folder, thick with papers. I've known how they see you for years, he said. But tonight I realized they'll never change. So I made sure you'll never have to fear them. He laid out every document, deeds, accounts, letters. I changed the house and the clinic to joint ownership, he explained, right of survivorship. If anything ever happens to me, it's all yours automatically. And I've written a will that makes that crystal clear. My throat tightened. Marcus, they'll hate me for this. He smiled sadly. They already do. But at least now they can't hurt you. Then he handed me a letter. His handwriting neat and steady. To my family, if you are reading this, it means I am gone, and you are doing exactly what I feared you would do. Trying to take from my wife what she deserves. Ashley is my family, you are my blood, yes, but she is my heart. If you cannot respect that, you will respect the law. I couldn't stop crying. He had seen them, every cruel whisper, every cold look, and turned it into protection. 6 weeks later, Marcus was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He faced it with the same quiet strength he always had. He called our lawyer, Charles Peaton. We need to finalize everything, Marcus said. Quickly. Over the next 2 weeks, between chemo sessions and sleepless nights, Marcus signed every document, every clause. Even one Charles called a No contest clause. If they try to fight this, Charles said, they lose everything. Do it. Marcus whispered. I want Ashley safe. As his body weakened, his family's greed grew stronger. They visited often, not to comfort him, but to measure the drapes, count the furniture, and talk about who would take care of the property once Marcus passed. Patricia even asked me one afternoon, have you thought about where you'll live afterward, dear? This house is quite large for a single woman. I forced a smile. I'm not planning to go anywhere. She and Raymond exchanged a look, that same smug certainty. 2 days before Marcus died, I overheard his brothers whispering in the hall. Dad wants to start moving valuables before the funeral. Just to be safe. Smart, the other replied. We'll change the locks, too. Marcus was barely conscious when I told him what they'd said, but his eyes opened, sharp with fury. They're already dividing up our life, he whispered. I'm afraid so. He squeezed my hand weakly. Promise me, Ashley. When they come, and they will come, don't let them intimidate you. You have every right, you fight back. I promise. He died 3 days later. The funeral was suffocating. Raymond and Patricia arranged everything. The flowers, the seating, the eulogy. They even told me, family sits in the front row. You'll be in the second. I didn't argue, because Marcus had already told me what was coming next. At the cemetery, as the last handful of dirt fell on his casket, Raymond leaned in close and said, We'll give you a few days to grieve, Ashley. Then we'll need to discuss the house. Gerald's family will be moving in soon. I stared at him numb. That house is my home. Was your home, he corrected. You're not blood. That night, I stayed with my sister Janet. When I told her what they'd said, she was livid. They can't just kick you out of your own house! I smiled faintly. They can try. The next morning, I drove back to Richmond. My hands shook on the steering wheel as I turned onto our street, and there they were. Raymond's truck, Gerald's van. Through the window, I could see them, moving furniture, boxes, even my grandmother's rocking chair. That's when I called Charles. They're at the house, I said. Taking things. He was calm. Good. Don't go inside alone. I'm on my way. Remember what Marcus said. Let them dig their own hole. I parked across the street and watched them like a ghost haunting my own life. Raymond barked orders. Gerald wiped sweat off his brow, carrying boxes labeled, living room. Timothy hauled my dishes out like they were junk. Finally, I'd had enough. I stepped out of the car and walked straight up the path. When I reached the doorway, Raymond turned, startled. Oh, you're back sooner than expected, he said. We thought you might stay away while we handle the transition. The transition? I repeated. He gestured around, getting the house ready for Gerald's family. Don't worry. We'll pack your personal things separately. My voice came out calm. Raymond, there's something you forgot. He frowned. What's that? Before I could answer, the sound of tires crunching on gravel filled the air. A silver BMW pulled up behind my car. Charles stepped out, briefcase in hand. His polished shoes clicked against the driveway as he walked up. Mr. Coleman, he said. I'm Charles Peaton, Marcus's attorney. We need to talk. Raymond's confidence cracked. I don't understand. Charles glanced around at the furniture, the boxes, the truck. Oh, I think you understand perfectly. You're currently removing property that belongs to my client, Mrs. Ashley Coleman. Gerald froze mid-step. That's impossible. This is family property. Actually, Charles said coolly, opening his briefcase. It was Marcus's property. And under Virginia law, everything he owned now belongs solely to his wife. Patricia's voice trembled. But she's not blood family? Nor does she have to be? Charles replied. Marcus changed every deed to joint ownership. And he left a comprehensive will, witnessed and notarized. It leaves everything, house, business, accounts, to Ashley. Raymond's face went red. You can't do that. It's been in our family for generations. Then perhaps, Charles said sharply, you should have treated your son's wife like family. He laid Marcus's will on the table, then unfolded a letter. Marcus's handwriting filled the page. If you are reading this, it means you have proven me right. For 8 years, you treated my wife as an outsider. You talked about legacy, blood, and property, but you forgot what family truly means. I leave everything to Ashley not just because the law allows it, but because she is the only one among you who ever understood love, loyalty, and decency. The room went silent. Patricia's hands trembled. Gerald looked at the floor. Raymond just stared, all the color drained from his face. And one more thing, Charles added. This will include a no contest clause. Anyone who challenges it loses everything. So if you were planning to fight, don't. The weight of that moment was unbearable. You could hear nothing but the wind outside and the sound of Raymond's pride collapsing. Hours later, every item they'd taken was carried back into the house. My grandmother's chair, Marcus's books, the photographs they'd tossed aside. Everything. Raymond couldn't even look at me. That evening, as the last truck pulled away, I stood in the kitchen, the golden light spilling through the same window where Marcus once stood, planning how to protect me. I opened his letter again. You are my family, Ashley. And even in death, I will make sure they finally understand that. Tears slid down my cheeks. Not from sadness, but from peace. Marcus hadn't just left me a house or a business. He'd left me justice. Within weeks, word spread through Richmond about what the Colemans had done, and how it had backfired spectacularly. Patricia's friends stopped calling. Raymond's reputation as a family man crumbled. Gerald had to explain to his wife why their new home had vanished. And Timothy, the one who thought he'd inherit the clinic, lost his job when I sold it and donated part of the proceeds to an animal rescue in Marcus's name. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't need to. Marcus had already written it, in ink, in law, and in love. And as I sat in that old Victorian house one last time, reading his words by the fireplace, I realized something sometimes. The quietest love stories end with the loudest truths. Marcus didn't just save me. He exposed them, every cruel word, every shallow pretense, every drop of their poisonous family pride. And that, in the end, was his final gift.